Hi, good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to AI Unleash, revolutionize your operations with advanced management system. So this is a PCB webinar, so agenda which I have today for you is to go through a little bit of introduction about artificial intelligence. Then we discuss what are the key issues related to adoption of artificial intelligence. Okay, uh, various government across the globe, they are coming up with regulatory requirements because they think that as artificial intelligence is adopted by businesses, consumers, it poses significant risk actually, and they are coming up with a number of regulatory requirements focusing on safe and transparent use of AI. So we are going to discuss that, and then from there, then we look at it ISO 42001, which is the new artificial intelligence management system, and we are going to look at it, what this new management system is all about. And from there, we will have a Q&A session. So as we go along, you may have a number of questions, so feel free to put your questions into the chat box, and at the end of the day, we will try to address as much as we can actually. So a little bit of my introduction. So my name is Vineet. I'm based in Singapore, and I'm founder and CEO of Nesta Consulting. Um, we are a reseller of PCB training in the region, based out of Singapore. So we resell a number of trainings on ISO, IT and cybersecurity standards. Like 42000 is new one, but we also do work on 27001, 27701, 20001, and some of the related standards. And I have been working as a consultant for close to last 30 years. And as part of our go-to-market strategy, we will be working with PCB to provide trainings on 42001 in the region. And we will also help customers to implement and get certified, when in time to come. I would be very frank with you that this is a very new standards. There's a lot of interest in the industry, so happy to share, as much as I can. Now let's look at it, artificial intelligence itself, what it is. Okay, so let's look at it, some of the definitions. There are many definitions in the industry. So if you look at it, Wikipedia, it says that artificial intelligence in its broadest sense is intelligence exhibited by machines. So when we talk about machines, it is computer systems, as opposed to natural intelligence of living beings. IBM, you know that they are one of the first few companies around the world who came up with, a product known as Watson, which is based on artificial intelligence. So they define as artificial intelligence, or AI, is a technology that enables computer and machines to simulate human intelligence and problem-solving capabilities. And lastly, if you look at it, Britannica, it says that artificial intelligence, the ability of digital computer or computer controlled robot to perform tasks commonly associated with intelligence being. The term is frequently applied to project of developing systems endowed with intellectual processes, characteristics of humans, such as ability to reason, discover meaning, generalize, and learn from past experience. I would say that the last one is what, we are focusing, which is more practical, because we know that in last few months there is a huge excitement and adoption of large language models, or what we call it, generative AI. So this the last definition is, I would say, closest to that. Now, artificial intelligence has many components, as you can see in the picture. Okay, the heart of it is neural networks. Okay, and from neural networks, um, The models are created to do a deep learning, and that is encapsulated by machine learning. And this is in broadest sense what we call artificial intelligence. So we will not get into too much technical details of the artificial intelligence. We leave it over here. We'll focus more in terms of the management system aspect of it, and let me continue on that. Now you will ask that, hey, why should I look at it 42001, which is artificial intelligence management system? And to answer that, you have to look at it that as an organization, whether you are AI provider, AI producer, or AI customer. Okay. I would say that most of us, because a number of SaaS products which are out in the market at the moment, they have started using AI in one way or another. And very good example is Microsoft Office. So if you know that, if you use Microsoft Office products, or a Bing, which is a Microsoft search engine of Google, they have adopted open AI, and they call it Copilot, and where while using Microsoft products, you can make use of artificial intelligence. Okay, so depending upon whether you are AI provider or whether you are AI producers, or AI customer, um, um, that gives you, a rationale for how you want to look at it. 42001. So in case of AI providers, where they are offering goods or services utilizing one or more artificial intelligence system, I would say that in this category, Microsoft is a good example. Okay. AI producer are the companies, that create, develop, test, offer, and good services utilizing one or more AI systems. I would say that companies like OpenAI, Google, they are coming up with, many models. Some of them are open source, some of them are, commercially available. So they come into that category, and rest of the organization comes as, whether businesses or consumer, they comes as a uh, AI customer. I would, so if you ask me whom, 42001 will be applicable, I would say that it would be broadly applicable to AI provider and AI producer, because when AI customers want to use AI, they want to get assurance from AI provider and AI producers that whatever product and services they are offering on AI, it is safe to use, it is, explainable, it is transparent. So that would be the case in terms of the category of the adoption. Now let's look at it, some of the key issues with AI. So first and foremost is trust deficit. How actually, we know that we can trust a model about its prediction. And AI itself is a very technical field, so it would be very difficult for a common person like yourself or myself to comprehend how, a combination of input can generate a solution for, whatever problems we are facing. So that's, I think, trust deficit is very important. Second one is the limited knowledge. So our limited knowledge, so I think a lot of time there is a lot of, I would say, noise or uh, discussion, or interest about artificial intelligence, but a lot of time we do not have a very good understanding in terms of, how we are going to, understand and adopt artificial intelligence. So that's another key issue. As you know that artificial intelligence based system, especially large language models, they use huge amount of data, and some of these data could be personal. So these days all of us are connected to various type of social media, and because of that, lot of our personal data in a way is public, and a number of countries around the world, they have enforced very strict laws about data protection. So I would say that Singapore has a PDPA for a number of years. It was introduced in 2012, and Singapore has done an excellent job in terms of implementing and regulating it. I also understand that PDPA similar laws has been there in Malaysia, Thailand, and I would say Europe is one of the leaders in this field. So question is that how we are making sure that when some of these AI solutions uses personal data, that data is we are taking care of the data protection as well as security. So that's another key issue with AI, because the moment we put any personal data into any of the model, frankly speaking, no, it becomes public, and there is a potential for misuse. Another one is that lack of understanding in terms of defining the scope, what AI can or cannot do it, and a lot of time, though there are very nice solutions available, but if people don't scope and clearly specify the problem, then finding a solution with AI becomes very difficult. We need to have a problem first before we can come up with a solution. Another one is that AI solutions rely on data, whether it's structured or unstructured, which are created by humans over a period of time, and humans by nature are very biased. So question is that if this data used by the AI solutions, there is a high risk that those decisions or predictions provided by the AI solutions can also be biased, and this could especially um, high risk in the areas of, say, financial services. So suppose if I apply for a loan, and that loan, whether it is going to be approved or rejected by an AI solution, uh, I my application assessment of my application can be biased depending upon what type of data is used by the financial institution. Another high risk area is the healthcare, so that's another big concern. Another issue is that implementation strategy, so how we are going to implement AI projects in terms of defining the objective outcomes which are realistic. Okay, bias problem, I already talked about it, and then um, data security. So I mean, data privacy is one thing which is deals with mainly with the personal data, but there is also a lot for companies. They have a lot of, I would say, intellectual property right. They have a lot of data related to pricing. They have a lot of data related to design products, and how we are going to make sure that it is secure. At the same time, um, uh, in order for AI solutions to work properly, it needs to have sizable data. So data scarcity is another, I would say, an issue, when we deal with AI solution, because if you don't have the right set of clean data, we will have a lot of problems, further down the line in terms of dealing with uh, uh, AI solutions. So these are, key issues. These are not all the issues, but I would say these are some of the key issues in terms of, adopting AI or using AI. Now, European Union recently, if I'm not wrong, couple of weeks back, enacted an AI Act actually, and that act requires, AI, meaning that if suppose if I am offering an AI solution in the European Union market, that should address the risk actually. It also requires to prohibit AI practices that pose unacceptable risk, especially in the area of, I would say, healthcare, financial services. Determine a list of high risk applications. Okay, set a clear requirement for AI systems for high risk applications, define a specific obligation, deployers and providers of high risk AI application require a conformity assessment before given an AI system is put into a service or placed on the market. Put enforcement in place after AI system into placed into the market, meaning that if they do not follow the requirements of the act, actually the law enforcement bodies or regulator, they have right to take action. And lastly, establish a governance structure at European and national level. So I would say that this act is relatively new. I mean, we have to still see the details, how it evolves, what kind of rules and regulations are going to be framed by European Union in terms of applying it. I would say that Singapore has not enacted any law, to my knowledge, on AI yet, but there is already government has lot of commitment and initiative in terms of helping industries to adopt AI, and there have been certain framework already out in the market in terms of the safe adoption of AI under IMDA, if I'm not wrong. So if you have time, you can look at it. So I think the key challenge is that if we are developing or using an AI based solution, how we can assure our stakeholders on the issues which I just discussed on the previous slide. And this is where ISO has created a management system for the safe usage of artificial intelligence 42001. And this management system, let me be very frank with you, it is similar to other management system in technology domain, whether it is 27001 or say 27701, which deals with privacy, where it helps to get a number of processes and controls to adopt or provide AI solutions, in a very responsible way. So some of the key benefits, which addresses the issues which I just talked. Number one is accountability and responsibility. So number one is that it promotes ethical and responsible use of AI system. Second one is that as part of it allows organization to demonstrate responsibility, accountability regarding their role with AI system. This is very, very important. Okay. And lastly, under accountability and responsibilities, helps organization to align AI usage with objectives and stakeholder expectation. This is very, very important. Why actually, a particular organization wants to use AI, there should be some objectives, and those objectives should be, aligned with the stakeholders' expectation. Here, stakeholders are broadly business partners, customers, regulators, employees, management. So accountability and responsibility is very, very important benefit from 42001. Okay, and later on I will share how that is possible as part of 42001. Second one is improved decision making, because these days we leave AI to make decisions on behalf of humans. So question comes is that how we can make the transparent and responsible use of AI in decision making. A lot of time we use the word explainability. When we get an outcome from AI, there should be some explanation about it, as part, but that's very fundamental to decision making. Because when we say that, hey, your application is approved or rejected, if I just take a simple use case, we need to provide people some explanation that why it is approved or why it is rejected, to be fair and transparent to them. Continuous learning. So again, there is a strong focus, because all AI models, there is a huge focus on learning from the data sets, so that's there. And lastly, trustworthiness. So ensure AI systems are designed and deployed with a strong emphasis on trust, because in business, trust is very, very fundamental. So if suppose I'm dealing with a banking system, I should trust it. If that trust is not there, a transaction cannot take place between business to business, or business to consumer, or consumer to business. And same applies to government to business, or business to government. So Building and maintaining confidence in AI system is very, very essential for user acceptance and regulatory compliance, because regulator also wants to know, whether a particular system can be trusted or not. So one of the key, advantage of using ISO based management system, which applies to many management system, is that number one, they are certifiable. So you can implement the standard, and then you can get a independent certification body to come and certify it. That gives, a very strong assurance to the stakeholders. That's number one. Okay. Second advantage is that 42001 is country, or geographic agnostic, so there are many standards around the world. You can adopt it, but the problem is that no, if a standard is a very country specific and your business is multinational, multi-country, if you go to other country, that particular standard may not be applicable. So ISO, this is where ISO stands out in terms of the adoption. Now let's look at it. What are the key principles, in terms of dealing with AI? So which is just opposite of issues. So fairness. Okay, so that's number one. AI should not discriminate against any individual or groups. We need to make sure that underlying data takes care of it. Transparency. So any decision making should be clear and interpretable. Accountability. So clear lines of responsibility in terms of development, deployment, and the consequences of AI system. Reliability and safety. So AI systems being dependable in their operation. This is particular important, in a very risky industry, say transport, healthcare. This is very important. Privacy and security. So particularly the PII data, personally identifiable information. So we need to make sure that those data are protected and we are compliant to regulations. Ethics and values, because we are going to use a very huge amount of data, and we need to make sure that ethical practices are used in terms of acquiring and using the data. um, we also need to make sure that when the decisions are delegated to AI system, there should be a human control over it. We can't just leave it to AI to decide. There should be human intervention. um, Fairness, transparency, accountability, reliability, all these things, ethics will brings the trust. So trust is a superset of all these things. Okay. um, Responsibility. So again, we need to make sure that the data which is used is relevant and representative, and um, we always respect users power over the data access and use. So if data belongs to me, I should have a power to include or exclude it, and definitely, the whole idea is to benefit and empower as many people as we can. So these are some of the fundamental AI principles related to AI. Now let's look at it. I mean, in this particular webinar, we are not going to give you a detailed implementation training, but I just wanted to highlight what is the structure of 42001. So let me spend some time to explain it to you. So first and foremost is that if you look at it, 42001, it is similar to other management system and it follows high level structure. Okay, so if you look at it, say a similar management system, which is 27001 information security management system, that also has clause 4 to clause 10. So clause 4 talks about context of organization. In this clause, we focus on three important things. Okay, number one, we try to understand that if we are going to implement artificial intelligence management system, what are the issues we are facing? Okay, issues, you can assume ISO doesn't define what is issue, but issues are more like a showstoppers or a constraint. So lack of resources, lack of knowledge about AI, these are issues. um, um, uh, frequent changes to regulatory environment. Like we know that EU has enacted a law, and it's a matter of time that other countries will follow the suit. So once the law is enacted, we need to understand it. So these are issues. Second aspect is that we need to understand that needs and expectation of the interested parties. So interested parties are customers, business partners, regulators, management, employees. When we implement AI, they have the needs and they have expectation. So I would say that there is a difference between needs and expectation, because sometimes needs are kind of documented through a contact a contract, whereas expectations are more people expect, and and we need to meet them, though there is no contractual obligation. And the last part of clause 4 is scope. We must define a scope clearly of the artificial management system. That's very fundamental, because if a scope is not clearly defined, then we may run into the problem actually. Leadership deals with involvement of the top management. If we don't have the blessings of the top management, it will be very hard to implement, frankly speaking, because the top management provides the direction, guidance, and the resources. So that's very, very important to implement any framework in the company. Second aspect of clause 5 is about having a AI policy, how we are going to govern AI within the organization. So there are requirements about that in 42001. Then the last part of leadership is about the roles and responsibility. So we need to clearly define roles and responsibilities related to AI, artificial intelligence management system. A lot of it will deal with who are the stakeholders who are involved in artificial intelligence, and broader managers and employees. So that's the leadership. Planning, in a similar way, deals with three important things. Number one, it deals with help us to define a risk management framework, and then it help us to identify what are the risks we are going to face if we have to implement AIMS, or what are the risks AI artificial management system will face. So that's number one. Second one, it talks about identifying the objectives why we want to implement artificial intelligence management system. There should be some objectives from the leadership. And lastly, it deals with the change management. So whenever we want to change the artificial management system, change must be systematic. So clause 6 talks about. Clause 7 is in a very similar way. It talks about having competency. We need to have awareness. We need to make sure that because any management system requires a lot of documentation, so we need to have processes related to documentation. So anything to deal with resources comes clause 7. Clause 8 is a heart of AIMS, where we do three things. Number one, we define the processes or plans to achieve whatever objectives or whatever risk we face as part of the clause 6 actually. That's number one. Then we identify what are the risks we are going to face in terms of usage or the development of the AI within the organization. Okay. And once we know the risk, we identify what are the key AI risks. From there, then we go and identify what are the treatment plans, and what are the controls we should implement and adopt. Okay. And this is where we will go and take the help of Annex A. So Annex A provides a number of objectives and controls which we have to assess and decide which one we want to use actually. Okay. And Annex B is just a guidance on or more like a industry practices in terms of the implementation of the controls, how we should go about implementing it, so that's the usage of Annex. And then Annex C and Annex D, it gives us a little bit more examples when we are identifying the objectives or risk, or Annex D talks about the use of AI management system. So clause 8 is quite closely clause 8 makes use of NX A, B, and C and D. Okay, so clause 8 will identify a number of controls which we are going to implement, and again, uh, we have to use the controls within Annex A, and we have to provide justification why we are using a particular, whether we are including or excluding a particular control. But at the same time, we also have option to adopt the controls from elsewhere, because there are several good frameworks available. So NIST is another body under US federal government, where they also have lot of, I would say, good framework about AI, or AI risk management. So we are free to make use of it if it makes sense. Clause 9 deals with three things, which is performance evaluation, that we should have processes in place to monitor, okay, the performance of AI, and if it is not performing as intended, it's not meeting the objective, there should be some correction. Second aspect is that, like any another management system, it should also be internal audited at least once a year. And lastly, in clause 9, we need to have management review from periodic management review to make sure that no AI management system is meeting the objectives, needs and expectation of interested parties are met, all the key risks which are identified as part of clause 6 and clause 8 are mitigated, those sort of things. Okay, and clause 10 is similar. It talks about correction, corrective action, as well as continuous improvement. So just to share with you, compliance to every requirement from clause 4 to clause 10 is a must when an organization says that they have implemented artificial intelligence management system based on 42001 and they are compliant. There is no option to exclude any requirement from clause 2, 4 to 10, and that's, I think, very similar to any other management system. Okay, when it comes to Annex A, we have a lot more flexibility in terms of deciding which control objectives and controls we want to implement. Okay, that will depend on the risk profile of the organization. Okay, B, C, and D is more in terms of informative, giving us industry practices, and some of the, when we are trying to implement especially clause 6 and clause 8. Okay, so that's a broad overview of 42001. Those who are in the business of management system like 27001, 27701, 22301, 20001, they will find it quite similar. Okay, so moving on. So this is actually PCB's implementation strategy. It is divided into four phases. Okay, so this is one way to implement. I mean, you can implement it. There are, I mean, ISO standards can be implemented in many ways. There are many implementation methodology, but I will just share about what PCB proposes. So first phase is define and establish, and as part of this phase, first key thing is to update the leadership and make sure that we have a business case for the project and we get the blessings of the leadership or senior management to start the project. Second aspect is that we should clearly define the roles and responsibility related to AI management system, and and I'm going to share with you. Third item is we need to understand that what type of organization we are. Okay, and and what type of constraint we face, who are our stakeholders, what are their needs and expectation related to AI, and what is the scope, and from there then we define the scope actually. Then we look at it. Okay, for those organizations, they have been using AI for a while, we need to do a gap assessment, try to see that what requirements of 42,000 are already met and what are the requirements of 42,001 are not met, so it gives an idea where we are. Okay, and then from there we do an AI policy. Policy is very important. From there we do a risk assessment. First we come up with a risk assessment methodology. From there we do a risk assessment, and from there then we do a statement of applicability. Okay, when we go, so this is like a define and establish. In implement and operate, we go and select and design controls, then we implement controls. Then we need to have a number of documented information, so we look at that. Communication is another important thing where we need to communicate internally and externally about our AI management system, so we take care of that. We make sure that there is a proper awareness and we have the proper competence to manage AI management system. And the lastly would be the management of AI operations. Okay, so that's the implement and operate. And from there we go to monitor and review, which is like clause 9, monitoring, measurement, analysis and evaluation. We do internal audit and then we update the management. And from there, in phase 1, 2 and 3, if we have any non-conformities, we deal with it. And like in any management system, we try to improve it. So in the best interest of time, I will focus on items which are underlined, starting with roles and responsibility, scope, uh, um, risk management, selection and design of controls, and management of AI operations. So I'm going to briefly touch upon it, and feel free to ask any questions at the last. Okay. So again, like when we implement AI, there are number of AI roles and responsibility. Some of it may exist, some of it you have to create. So the first and foremost is who is the head of AI actually. Okay, that's very important. Some places we also need to have an ethics officer who makes sure that adoption, usage, or a production of AI follows the ethical guidelines. Okay. Then on technical side, we need to make sure that there is a head of data science. Usually this sorry, there is a typo. It's the head odd, so it's a head of data science. Okay, so who oversees AI model development, data management, algorithmic integrity. Usually the person who holds the head of data science, they are very technical people, frankly speaking. Mostly highly qualified people who can take up that role, usually PhDs. Okay. Then we have a compliance officer. So compliance officer try to understand that whatever countries the organization operates, what are the regulations related to AI, and we make sure that those are addressed as a part of implementation of artificial management system. Okay. Under the data science head, we also have a research and development manager, who works on developing, researching new technologies, approaches. Similarly, we have AI risk manager, whose job is to assess and mitigate risk associated with production or deployment of AI. And lastly, we have two roles, which is AI training and development manager, who the primary role is to improve competence and awareness. And lastly, we have AI user experience, manager, who optimizes the interaction between AI and humans. So if you ask me that, hey, all these roles are mandatory, answer is no. These are just as a sample. I mean, some of it can be rolled into a one person. So for example, AI compliance officer and AI risk manager can be same person. Head of data science and research and development manager can be a same person. You may have existing training and development manager. You can assign him the responsibility for AI as well. You may have a user experience manager. Again, you can assign a responsibility for AI as well. So there is no right or wrong. These are just like a sample. But the key thing is that as part of AIMS, we try to identify the stakeholders who are involved in AI. We document their roles and responsibility, and make sure that it is assigned and people know about it. So that's the key actually. Now, when it comes to defining the scope has usually two type of boundary. One is organizational boundaries in terms of business process, business unit, so that's one. Second one is that information security boundaries, network, operating system, database, applications, so more focus is more in infrastructure. So when we talk about information system boundaries, we are looking at it both the on-premise as well as cloud actually, because these days cloud is a very, very common thing. And lastly, we look at it physical boundaries. So are we operating in multiple countries? Is it going to be apply in all those countries, or it will only apply to a handful of countries. Even like, Singapore is a small, but in a bigger countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, or Thailand, we have multiple office locations. So is it going to apply everywhere, or a handful of? So that's determination we need to make. Okay. While doing that, we also need to look at it as part of it, what laws and regulations we need to cover. Do we need to follow certain standards? So a lot of time we need to follow certain standards because our customers forces us to do so. So we need to look at it. We look at it our contractual obligation. We also look at it internal policy. So scoping is a very, very important step, and we need to consider these areas to decide what should be the scope of artificial management system. And it is quite similar to determining the scope in other management system. Okay. Now, when it comes to the risk management, AIMS risk management uses 31,001. So those who work in the area of 27,001 or enterprise risk management one, you should be quite familiar with it. So we typically start with the scope, context, and criteria. From there, we identify the risk. Then we analyze the risk in terms of impact and likelihood. Then we identify risk on we plot the risk on a heat map and see which risk we are going to accept and which risk we are going to treat. And those risks which we are going to treat, we need to have a treatment plan. Treatment plan needs to be approved. Then we need to communicate and consult, and we need to record and report to management. And then we monitor and review from periodically. So this is very typical. This is nothing new, frankly speaking. It applies in many management system, especially if you work in an area of cybersecurity and data protection. Now, the key over here is the identification of risk. How we are going to identify the risk related to development or use of AI. So things like we need to look at it, our organization, we need to look at it, processes and procedures. We look at it, management routines. We look at people, their competency, awareness, physical environment, data, configuration, deployment, IT stack, as well as dependence on external parties. If you are using, say, any SaaS products, for example. Okay. So to help us out, we can look at it Annex C, where ISO 42001 provides us a number of candidates which we can consider as part of our risk sources. So complexity of environment, lack of transparency and explainability, level of automation, risk related to machine learning, hardware issues, system lifecycle issues, technology readiness. No, so these are, so I mean, I won't go through every one of it. When you have a time, you can get a copy of 42001, which you have to buy. It's not free. And and look at it, some of these. Now, Annex A control. So once we identify the control, then we need to identify what are the controls will be included or excluded. So Annex A contains a list of possible AI controls that serve as a reference for organization aiming to achieve objectives and manage risk in terms of designing and operating AI system. Organization must implement only Annex A controls that are necessary to their context. So all controls are not mandatory, unlike clause 4 to clause 10. An organization may use other references or customize their controls for AI management. So we have that flexibility as well. And unlike 27001, where we have ISO 27002, ISO provides the implementation details in the Annex B itself, which we can refer and adopt and customize actually. So every control which is given in Annex A, their implementation guidance is given in Annex B actually. So that should be referred. So again, you look at it, let me talk about some of the Annex A controls. So number one is there should be a policy. So, and why we need to policy? Because it provides the management direction and support for AI system. Review of AI policy, like any policy should be reviewed at least annually. Okay. Then we have AI roles and responsibility, which I just shared. Reporting of concerns. This is a new control for AI. So organization shall define and put in place a process to report concern about organization with respect to AI system throughout its life cycle. So again, concerns, reporting of concerns should be both internal and as well as external. Internal one is more in terms of employees. If they see any ethical issues, regulatory issues, there should be a way to channel it to the top management. Same applies for the customers. Resource documentation. So again, shall identify and document relevant resources. Okay. So resources are further broken down into data resources, what type of data we are using, computing resources, what type of hardware and software we are using, for. So again, I will not go through every control, but these are example controls, which we have to consider after we finish the risk assessment. So in terms of the documented information, which is very, very important, AIMS require that this must exist in a form of documented information. So AISM scope, policy, actions to address risk and opportunity, objectives and planning to achieve them, competence, operational planning and control, AI risk assessment, AI risk treatment, AI system impact assessment, monitoring, measurement, analysis and evaluation, internal audit, management review, non-conformity and corrective action. So when you go for internal audit or certification audit, it is must to demonstrate compliance to these clauses in terms of having a document actually. And what are the requirements for the documents, which is given in clause 7. So you can refer that. So in terms of document information, we have 4 levels. First, we typically have the policies. Okay. Then we have the description of processes and AI controls. Then we have procedures. So when we follow policies and procedures, that creates the record, Okay. So one example could be, we need to do awareness training. So policy require us to do awareness training once a year. Who will do the training? What would be the, who will do the training? What would be the training agenda, mode of training? That will be part of the training. And records will be things like, training invite, training attendance, the course evaluation. So those are records. Records gives us the confidence that controls are implemented, and working as intended in terms of the following of the policy and procedures. So this is also very similar to, I would say, the other management system. So I mean, I think I already talked about documented information. So what are the AIS records specific to artificial intelligence, algorithmic specification, design document, coding documentation, testing report, version control log, continuous improvement. These things you will end up creating when you implement control in Annex A. Just to share with you. Okay. So coming to the end, so I think another important thing is manage AI operations. So ensuring processes are carried out consistently in compliance with the standard, monitoring and measurement of performance of each process. So this deals with the treatment plans as well as the plans we create for achieving AI objectives, identifying where we can improve, taking necessary action if intended results are not achieved, and maintaining documented information. So this is more to do with clause 8. Okay. So in summary, we have just briefly touched upon some of the key aspect of implementing ISO 42001. Okay, I hope it has given you a helicopter view. So with that, I think I have covered everything. We are left with 10 minutes. So I'm happy to take any questions from anyone. So let me invite my colleague from PECB, Noor. Any questions, Noor, which anyone has asked, you want to share?
All right. Hi. Hello. My name is Noor from PECB. And firstly and foremost, I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Vineet for graciously accepting to be our speaker for our sharing sessions today. And thank you for all attendees that joining us. And okay. Um, Kindly feel free to share your questions in the chat. But due to time constraint, I will only be able to select couple of questions. All right. So I have one here. Hold on, yeah. Let
Yeah.
me share with you. Okay. What steps should company take to prepare their workforce for the integrations of AI into management system?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that the steps are prescribed by 42,000 from which is over here. So the key, I mean, the requirements are specified from clause 4 to clause 10 actually, you know.
Okay.
So important thing is that you get a copy of 42,001 which you have to buy because of copyright issues, you know. And I would recommend them to, contact us. There is a lot of training available from PCB in terms of implementing and auditing it, so we can help, but if you want to do it yourself, then you have to implement all the processes from clause 4 to clause 10 actually.
All right. So, okay. Another one that can you provide a sample of how AI has been successfully integrated into the management system to improve the operational efficiency in the businesses?
Okay, so I think that's a very good question. I would say
Mm-mm,
that 42001 is a very, very new standard. In my
mm-hmm,
knowledge, I think the number of companies who are certified in 42001 are in single digit globally, frankly speaking, because this standard
mm-hmm,
just came a few months back. So I won't say that there are many samples available. I mean, if you think that it is too risky to adopt it, maybe you can wait for another 5 6 months where
mm-hmm,
you see it is being adopted by other organization,
mm-hmm.
and then you try to learn from them and adopt it, yeah.
All right. So that's all for today. Thank you, Mr. Vinet, for your sharing. And then
Sure.
if you guys have any questions pertaining of the sessions today, you always can drop an email. All right. And then I think Mr. Vinet, you can share on the last slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, your contact informations. So,
Yeah,
all
so I
right.
mean, anyone, yeah, you can take down my contact information, and happy to help you with, PCB training.
Mm-hmm,
PCB has a lot of good courses. In fact, I myself went through some of the courses of 42001. So we can support you either through live training, or we have a lot of e-learnings, and most of the training have a certification at the end. So it's not just about attending the training, you can be certified as well. So feel free to note down my contact and contact me, and happy to help you with anything on 42,000.
all right. So, thank you, Mr. Vinet, for today. Have a good day, and we'll see you on the next sessions of our webinar. Thank you, guys.
Sure. Thank you everyone, thanks, bye.